FX Masterclass videos are back. New studio, new face, or at least for some of you, I'll be the new face. Recently, we put out a social media post requesting you guys to comment with which video we would love to start with or what you would like to see on the FX Masterclass videos, and a lot of you commented on some new innovative projects from FX, which won't be a problem if you know FX just a little bit. Scrolling through the comments, one was that stood out very clearly, and that was the DRS. Therefore, in this video, we will tackle down the DRS. We have the Classic, we have the Tactical, and we have the Pro right behind me. We will start off by removing the stock on all three different models, how to safely degas all three different models, and once we have the naked block, we will disassemble it down to the last little detail. A question I get a lot from some of you is that, are there any technical drawings on all the different models? Yes, there are. So head over to the FX website. Under the support page, you can find technical drawings for all the different guns, including the DRS. So if you're looking for part numbers, O-ring sizes, or whatever for your gun, go over to the website and you can find it right there. With that said, before you start any project on your gun, is it maintenance, is it complete disassembly, whatever, always make sure your rifle is safe to work on. That means no projectiles in the breech, it is not cocked, and it's completely safe to work on. Enough of me talking right now, let's get this class started. Right, so let's start off with the DRS Classic. It is the easiest stock to remove for a very simple reason. It just has one screw right in front of the trigger guard, which holds on the stock to the action block. The screw here at the back, you don't have to take out. That is an extra screw to keep the trigger guard in place. That screw is a 4mm Allen. Simply undo it. Take the screw out, put it safely to the side, and then it might be a little bit tight, but you can easily wiggle it out just like this. And that is your stock on the DRS Classic removed. Some of you might notice the Picatinny rail on top. That is an extra accessory that we sell for the DRS Classic. As standard or out of the box, the DRS Classic comes with a dovetail rail machined right into the top of the block. But if you do have this Picatinny rail on top, it is very simple to remove with only three small Allen keys right there at the top, which is a 2mm. Simply undo all three of them. And with all three screws removed, as simply as that Picatinny rail comes off. Then you might wonder how to degas the DRS Classic. Well, that is very easy. If you look on the plenum, on this side right here, we have a small Allen key, which is your bleed screw to drain the entire system from air. Same here. Simply put your Allen key in, crack it open, and let all the air escape out of the system to degas your DRS Classic. Then next in line is the FX DRS Pro, really awesome rifle. In order to take that one out of its chassis, we have two screws instead of one. We have two screws located at the bottom, one here and one here right in front of the grip. To remove them, I do advise to use some longer Allen keys because you have to clear the grip and you have to reach quite far into the action block as well. And the handle gives you a little bit more leverage in order to undo those screws. The front one will be a 4mm. Undo them. And for the back one, it will be a 3mm. Like so. Now some of you do know that you can just slide it out of the stock without taking that side angle manometer bracket off. If you don't have that bracket, you can now simply slide it out of your stock and you're good to go. But in order to take that one out, you have to bleed the entire system. There are two ways of bleeding the FX DRS Pro. That is one by just undoing the gauge. Simply twist it like this until you hear the air escaping. and just let it bleed out all the way. Now, while this one is bleeding the last of its air, you also might have one like this, which has a new upgraded side angle manometer bracket with a small screw right here at the bottom, which this one doesn't have. So this one functions as your bleed screw. Simply put your Allen key in there. It might be pretty tight, so do get a good set of Allen keys and simply undo it that way, and then you can bleed out your DRS Pro that way also. With the two screws of the chassis undone, you still need to remove that side angle manometer bracket in order to be able to slide it out of the stock. You can hear the last of the air escaping. And if you're looking for a very nice digital gauge, we do have the Keller gauges, the FX Keller gauges, very accurate to read your regulator pressure. You can buy this right now. To remove the side angle manometer bracket, take yourself a 3mm Allen key. Just undo the two screws which you have on the face right there. Just like this. Lift off that block. Do make sure you don't lose the little O-ring right here at the bottom, which is important to seal off the plenum from that angle manometer bracket. Inside that bracket, you also have like an X-ring, which is the one that seals on the back side of your gauge, whether you're using the normal Wika gauges or the FX Keller gauge. The X-ring right in there is what seals on the back face of that gauge. With the screws loose, the side angle manometer bracket removed, we can now slide the DRS Pro out of its chassis. It might take a little bit of wiggling, as the tolerances are very fine, which should be on a competition rifle. Simply slide it out gently, just like this. And with the DRS Pro out of its chassis, the only thing we can still remove, which belongs to the chassis part of the DRS Pro part, that is that rail here on top. To remove that rail, pretty similar to the DRS Classic Picatinny rail, you have 3 screws on top, but this one also has 2 extra screws here right on the side. So the first thing you do, take your 2mm Allen key, simply undo them. They're very tiny screws, so they don't have a lot of threads. Flip it over, take all 3 of them out, just like this, and I will focus on these right here. Simply loosen them like this, and then it's as easy as sliding that rail off. Next up, we have the DRS Tactical, which might be for some of you the most intriguing or complicated one in terms of taking a stock off, as we actually have the naked block, which is dressed up with a front rail, a back part, a grip, a trigger guard, and we're going to take it apart that way. So the first thing you want to do probably is to degas the rifle, and with the DRS Tactical, that is very easy and very simple to do. You have 1 screw right here at the bottom of the plenum in front of the big hole. And you simply take the 2mm Allen key, insert into it, and let it bleed out completely. This is the way how to degas your DRS Tactical. You don't have to take it out of the stock for this one. You can just simply do it that way. While it's bleeding out, the first thing we can do is remove the buttstock. The buttstock, depending on what kind of buttstock you have it dressed up with, simply remove it. I've done it already, done the castle nut. To save some time. Now while it's bleeding out the last of its air, we will start by removing the grip here. The grip is a 5mm Allen key. Simply insert it into the grip, find the Allen key, and undo it. And simply remove the grip. with the grip ring, 4 screws holding it down, and 2 more right here at the front near the plenum. So let's start off with the top ones, which is in a 2.5 millimeter. The screw right here at the back is a size bigger, and that will be a 3 millimeter. Simply top it over, take all the screws out, otherwise you can't remove the rail. So the bigger one is for the back hole, the 3 smaller ones are for the front holes. Let's put those screws to the side for a second, and now let's focus onto the 2 front ones right here. For this, a good set of Allen keys with a ball head, just like this, is the easiest way to go. You can loosen them just like this. And then all you do with the ball head, it gives you a little bit of angle to those screws. You can simply undo them. When the screws are undone, you can take them out. Just like so. And as simple as that, now you can slide out your action from your rail. And as you could see, be very careful for the 3 spacers, which are located underneath the rail right here for the 3 front holes, actually for each hole right at the bottom. So you have 4 spacers in total, which sit on top of there. Like this, in order to fill up between the block itself and the rail. Now let's focus ourselves to the back part, and the back part is easy. You have 3 screws right here at the bottom section, which we will undo. With those 3 screws taken out, just like this, we can now slide out the back part, and the back part is made up out of 2 different things. This part right here is your wheel, which is your click adjustment on the back part. So that's what gives you the click feeling, and that part connects on the inside together with the adjustment wheel right there. So it simply sits in like this, and then when you turn it, it makes that click. So make sure you keep that together just like this, and put it to the side with the screws. Last thing we will have to take off is the trigger guard right here. And as you can see, I have a gauge mounted to the plenum, which obstructs my way to the screw at the bottom, but there is access from this side right here, which shouldn't be a problem. Simply undo it. Again here, an Allen key with a ball head makes it very easy to remove that screw in an angle. And then we have 1 more screw to address, and that is the one here right at the back of the trigger guard. With the 3 millimeter. Simply lift off and take the trigger guard out. And that's it for the DRS Tactical, taking it out of his stock. So with all 3 of them out of the chassis or out of their stocks, you can see them right here. And the clear big difference now right here now is the plenum sizes. We have the super high power plus plenum, we have the tactical plenum, and we have the pellet plenum. Before we start removing the plenum, you have to make sure 100% that your complete system is out of air before you even attempt trying to take that plenum off. One very important thing to note is that each plenum has different screw sizes in order to connect into the block. So each screws belong to their own plenum, which is very important. Don't start mixing and matching screws in order to put another plenum on. They each have their specific length of screws. We'll take this one here right at the bottom, the pallet plenum. And in order to take that plenum off, we got 4 screws at the bottom, which are a 3 millimeter. Simply undo all of them. And with all 4 screws loose, simply lift off the plenum, just like this. Turn it over for different 4 screws. And this is your pallet plenum. One very important O-ring is the one right here at the bottom. This is the one which makes the seal between the block itself and the plenum. So make sure you don't lose that little O-ring right there. Taking a quick look at the other plenums, this is the tactical plenum with that different bottom part right here. It also has a little bit different contours in order to match together with all the accessories of the DRS Tactical. The DRS Tactical, you can add a separate gauge right here at the back to read out your plenum pressures, which could also be done with the pallet one. The pallet plenum also has a screw right here at the front with a simple element. You can undo that, take that screw out, which has a small seal on the inside right there, and then you can screw in any of your preferred gauges. Whether you go for a digital one like the FX Scalar gauge or you go for an analog one, the choice is yours. Looking at the DRS Pro model, we have the super high power plenum with the screws here on the side, which you can add that side angle manometer bracket and put any of the gauges to your choice. All right, so with stripping away all the stocks and the extra accessory parts and everything, it is time to remove the air tube. Make sure everything is completely out of air, but if you have removed your plenum and you have drained the system completely, there shouldn't be any issues. But still to note, do not unscrew it while it is under pressure. It might be very tight on top of there, but basically there is no Loctite, there is no glue, there is nothing. It has just been screwed on and you should be able to unscrew it. If it's very firm, you can always lock it in a vise, take both hands and unscrew it that way. Simply unscrew it all the way. Be gentle on the end for the O-ring which is there. And simply slide out the action from the air tube. Now the reason it is very important, or the reason why it is so tight to the block itself, that is to gain accuracy. So therefore, when you put it back together, please make sure you put on the air tube pretty tight onto the block itself. Talking about the air tube has 3 main sealing points. One is here right on the block, the O-ring which sits here, that seals off the backside of the air tube, inside the tube right there. And then when you remove the thread protector for the 1.5 UNF, you can see 2 little holes right there. And if you take yourself some needle nose pliers just like this, you can unscrew that as well. Just to show you the inside of it. At a certain point, you can just do it by hand. Same here, on the end there is an O-ring. Like this. The O-ring here on the outer edge, or on the outer diameter, let's say, that seals into the inside of the air tube. And then when you look into the barrel, just on the edge of the lip right there, I don't know if I can make it a little bit more clear. On the inside of the edge right there, there is another O-ring, and that O-ring sits over your barrel just like this, sealing off. Let me see if I gently can squeeze it in like this. And that O-ring seals your barrel from the entire system, and therefore all the air is contained on the inside. So that is the air tube. Quickly putting it back together. Then with the air tube removed, we can go ahead and remove the barrel. The barrel is held in place with two little grub screws, one on this side right above the manometer gauge, and one on the other side right below the engraving right there. Those little screws might be a little bit tight inside, but just using a little bit of heat from a small heat gun, just like this one right here, for instance, heating it up, loosening the Loctite on those grub screws will make them free up easily, and you can quickly and easy take out your barrel. Make sure to twist them out far enough, and then with a gentle twist motion, and I will tell you in a second just why, you can twist out the barrel just like this. And the reason why I say you have to gently take it out, especially when you want to replace it, we would advise grease or silicone lube on top of your barrel right here, especially at the zone from here till the end of the brass inlet. And that is because you have a very sealing O-ring, or a very tight sealing O-ring right here inside. I'll put some schematic drawings on it to make it clear for you. And then you have two other sealing O-rings which are sitting about right here. So you have one sealing O-ring which goes over your barrel, and then you have two sealing O-rings which go over the transfer port, making sure everything is nice and sealed up from your air tube. So putting that back in, be very careful putting it in so you don't damage that O-ring, especially the first one. Otherwise you will get a leak out of one of the two small grub screws right here. And if you have a leak out from the back, then it's probably what the last, or the first and the last one sealing off on the transfer port. And then we are left with the block by itself. One easy thing to remove is your gauge right here. You should be able to undo it just by hand, but if it's a little bit tight, we do advise to use a socket like this. Simply put it over it, and then you can apply the force needed in order to take your gauge out. If you do use a spanner or something, please use it on the lower edge of the manometer gauge, so therefore you press on the lower side and not on the top side, and that the lens might not pop out or something. But the best thing to use is a socket like this. Simply twist out the gauge. Underneath the gauge you will find yourself a X ring, same as on the plenums, which seals on the back side and the threads from your gauge. So make sure that seal is good when you want to replace your gauge again. Then now let's put our focus or our attention to the click adjuster from your hammer spring adjustment. The newer blocks have this click adjustment, and that click adjustment works with a ball bearing and a spring which is pushing onto that adjustment right there. In order to access it, just cock your block or open your block just like this, and right there on the inside you have a small Allen key or Allen grub screw. Stick your Allen key in between the opening and the lever of your cocking action. Undo that little screw. Tip it over, take that little screw out, and then just be careful tipping it over. The spring and the ball bearing come out of that little hole. That little ball bearing pushes, or the spring rather, pushes on that ball bearing and therefore engages with the click feeling when you adjust the hammer spring adjustment. Put this to a safe place, as those are very tiny parts and you don't want to lose them. With that done, we can unscrew our hammer spring adjustment. Simply stick an Allen key inside, unscrew it, just like this. And as you can see, this is that inner wheel with the teeth on top of it where the ball bearing engages with, and that's what gives you that clicky feeling. Flipping it over, you have your spring and you have your hammer weight. Now, depending on the configuration of rifle that you have, the combination of the spring and the hammer weight can be different, with different hammer weights and different spring that we use in order for different combinations. Put that also safely to the side. With the internals out, there is still one internal part left, and that is your hammer by itself, the shiny silver part that you can see inside right there. But that one is not, or can't come out for the moment, as it sits on the sear right there, and therefore we have to remove the trigger at first. In order to remove the trigger, we will first remove the safety, of course. And the safety on the DRS Tactical, as this is the safety from the DRS Tactical, is held in with a tiny screw from the back side, right there, which you simply undo. Now the safety also has a click feeling. So when you flip it up and down, that also has a flick feeling. Therefore, right here underneath that little hole, when we're going to push out that safety, there is also a ball bearing and a screw. So you really have to be careful when you take that out that not everything jumps out on you. So the best way to go about it is cover that hole with your finger right there, and then you can gently wiggle it out. There is the ball bearing already, which jumped out immediately. And there is the spring, which sits underneath. Again, very tiny parts. Put them all nicely in the same place so you know what goes where when you want to put it back together. Taking a look at the safety of the DRS Classic and the DRS Pro, it has this flip style lever, and the way to remove that safety is pretty much exactly the same as with the DRS Tactical, except that this part looks a little bit different. You have the same shaft, which in this case is now brass, going through the thing with a spring and ball bearing on the other side. So the best thing to do is flip that around, twist it, like this, and now you can go ahead and push that safety out in that way. Same thing right here applies. Be careful when you push that brass collar out, because there is that ball bearing and that spring underneath. Now let's continue with this block in order to remove the trigger. In order to remove the trigger, you have 3 little pins which drive straight through the block. One that holds the trigger, one that is making sure your sear can't fall all the way back, and then one is holding your sear. I'm talking about these 3 little holes right there. And the first thing we need to do is to remove the retaining little grub screws. And that is done with a 1.5 millimeter. That is one. Number 3. Very tiny little screws, keep them well to the side. I will focus our attention first to the one right here, the first one, and that is the one which goes through the trigger and holds the whole trigger blade inside. So the best thing you can do is flip your block around, and you have 3 corresponding holes for each of the screws that we took out. I will take the one furthest to the action or to the breech. Simply push with a very sharp little tool into that hole, and that will push a little pin from this side. And then once that little pin sticks out a little bit like this, put your thumb on the trigger blade, pull that little pin out, just like this. Keep your thumb on the trigger blade because there is a spring underneath, and when you release your thumb, your trigger will jump out. So gently release it, and like this. The whole trigger blade construction we'll just go over in a second. What is your first stage? What is your second stage? But as you can see, we have a spring right here, so make sure you don't lose that spring. Then we can have a look on the inside of that opening right here, and there you can see at the bottom we have the sear sitting there, and then we have the first pin or the second pin in line. We have taken out the first one. The second pin in line, that is the one which the sear drops on. So same procedure right here. Take a sharp little tool, stick it in from the opposite side, and take out that little pin. The third one, you have to be careful because if we push that pin out, that little sear will also drop out. So push on that pin. The pin sticks out just a little bit from the other side. I would keep my block face down, take that little pin out, and there we have our sear. And with the sear removed, we now can slide out the hammer by itself, like this, and here we have our hammer. Now removing the trigger on the DRS Pro is a little bit different. In the biggest way, it is exactly the same, but the first step is a little bit different. As you can see, left and right side of the match grade trigger, you have two little screws, which you will have to undo first. So taking those two screws out. And with those two screws completely loose, you can just lift off on the first part of the trigger, which is different than the one from the normal DRS Classic. Make sure you don't lose the two small screws. The biggest difference is inside the match grade trigger, there is another lever which interacts with the trigger. It's a little bit more complicated, but that's why it is a match grade trigger. For the most part, it's exactly the same. You have the same three grub screws which holds those pins in place, and by removing the first pin, you remove that little first bridge on that you see right here, which also has the spring on the back. The second one also removes or doesn't do anything but holds the sear from falling all the way back, and the third screw is what holds the sear. In order to remove the probe and the bolt carrier, we have to remove our cocking handle. Our cocking handle is held in place with two little screws, one which engages with the cocking block or the probe carrier inside, and one is held in as a pivot point right there on the corner. With your Allen key, which is a 1.5, put that in, and simply unscrew the screw right there. That screw is quite a special screw, as it has like a shaft with threads on the end. So make sure you put that screw in a safe place. And then now we can slide out the entire system. You feel a small clicky feeling, which is your grub screw right here at the back. Let's quickly take that out to show you. And that is actually your bolt retaining screw, so that when you're shooting PRS, for instance, your bolt doesn't fall forward when you transition between stages. It's a screw with a ball bearing on the end. And now you can slide out the entire cocking arm together with your probe. To remove the probe, there is a small grub screw right here on the side of the carrier, 1.5 millimeter. Now, if that screw is a little bit tight, once again, you can apply some heat to it. A few seconds should do enough. Just like this. And then be careful, it can be warm. Stick in your Allen key. Make sure you don't strip the threads. And now you can take out your probe. That is your cocking assembly, the carriage, and your probe. And then now we have completely disassembled the back part. All the internals are out, the cocking mechanism is out, the trigger is out. Let's focus our attention to the front, where we have the regulator and the valve and a plug which is used, that plug, for machining purposes. The plug is nothing special. Simply take your Allen key and let's remove that first. Just a brass plug with an O-ring which seals on the inside, and therefore if you have a leak around there, simply replace that little O-ring right there and then you're good to go. Next up, we will remove the regulator by starting removing the adjustment screw. Simply twist it out. Like so. Grab your fingers and gently wiggle it out. There are 2 O-rings on that adjuster, so if you have any issues with your regulator, we would advise to seal off or replace all the sealing O-rings on the regulator, and these 2 are one of it. Next up, we will remove the regulator body. 5mm Allen key, simply put it in there, untwist the regulator body, like so. Gently take it out. And if you're lucky, like this time, everything comes out together. And together, I mean, you have your piston with your Belleville washers and you have your regulator body. If you have any problems with your regulator, just take it out, clean it all out, put some new lubrication on it, change out the O-rings, and you should be good to go. That is the regulator. After the regulator, we have one more vital part, and that is the valve, which sits right there. 4mm Allen key to twist off the valve cap. Simply turn it out like this. And this one is nice and greasy, so our valve pin with our spring is all still in one piece, but it's actually different pieces. There is an O-ring right there at the bottom. If you get any leaks from the backside, that is the O-ring you should be replacing. The other part you have on top of there is like a spring guide to make sure your spring stays centered over the shaft itself. Then you have the valve return spring and you have the valve itself, or the valve pin itself. Now we have different valve pins, we have different valve sizes depending on which configuration or model you have. The valve size will be the smaller one or the bigger one depending on the configuration and the power level. And then there is still one very vital part we still need to remove, and then our disassembly is complete. And that is the valve housing, which sits right there in the bottom where the valve seat seals on. The easiest way to remove it is from the opposite side. So if you look here down in the block, you can see the back side of the valve right there. So if you stick in a long Allen key, make sure you take the one that I'm using is a 5mm with a blunt head, so you don't damage the valve seat on the opposite side. Put it like this, gently press on it, and if you can see it start moving right there. And then gently wiggle it around and the valve housing comes out. Now if you take our valve itself, The valve pin goes in like this, sits right there on an O-ring inside the valve housing, sealing it off. From that side, there is an O-ring on the outside of the valve housing. And when your valve is closed, it looks like this, sealing off all the air which is coming from this side, needs to travel up to the transfer port. Talking about sealing O-rings, you have one, as I mentioned, right here in the collar. You have one on the outside of the valve housing. And then there is still a very important one. It's a little bit of a difficult one to get in, but there is still one deep in the block right about there somewhere. I'll put it on the schematic drawings, which is also very important. And therefore you have to be very careful to take out your valve housing or removing it or putting it back. If you take a look at the face of the valve housing, it has like a half moon right there. And when you replace it, there is like a T-slot down in the middle. So when you take a flathead screwdriver, you can push the valve back in and then slightly turn it until you feel it click, where that little moon cuts right into the block at the bottom, and then you know your valve is in the right orientation upwards to the transfer port. As I mentioned before, the valve comes in a few different sizes, or in 2 different sizes, and therefore I'll put it up now right on the screen, the difference between the 2. And there you have it, guys, the FX DRS block completely disassembled. As you can see, it's a fairly simple block, not too many parts, not too many sealing O-rings, and therefore something you can easily attempt at home to replace an O-ring or to do some other maintenance stuff on your FX DRS. And that concludes the complete disassembly of the FX DRS. I hope this video gave you a little bit more confidence in disassembling your rifle, giving you a little bit more confidence doing some maintenance on your rifle or fixing maybe a small issue. If you still have any questions after this video, which wasn't clear in the video or maybe I didn't cover, please put them in the comment section down below. Reach out to us on social media or head over to the FX website under the support page where you can fill out a form with all the details of your gun and your question, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, on our website you can find technical drawings for all different models, including the DRS, if you're looking for part numbers, O-ring sizes, and all kind of those things. I hope you enjoyed it. That's it from me today, and I'll see you back in the next masterclass.